everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sober-At.
Hey everybody, did you want to start or did you want me to start? That's probably the best beginning of a podcast we've ever had.
Sorry about that. Yeah, usually there's a timer that goes off that lets us go, and
It went. I think you just spaced out.
I was zoned out. It's been been one of those days.
Rewind.
I'm Ryan. This is Jessica. We are sober as fuck.
And have no idea what we're doing
right.
Today, apparently. It's okay.
Before we get to today's powerhouse guest, Jessica, why don't you go over the trigger warnings and give us some information?
Yeah, just short trigger warning. We talk about a lot of things underneath the mental health umbrella: addiction, self-harm, binge eating, grief, all of the things. So if you hear something that starts making you feel some sort of way, by all means, please prioritize yourself and log off. But assuming that you stick around, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share, engage with us. Pretty please with sugar on top. We're on Spotify.
Spotify? Well, you were really blowing this one up.
Yeah.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
and YouTube.
Yes.
Listen, it's May. It's the end of the school year. We're so fucking busy.
Yes.
So fucking busy.
I love it.
And so I think our brains are just like...
Yeah, it's all melted together.
So if you feel that way, come sit.
Yes.
The water is fine.
Check out our new website as well.
Yes.
Our
our-noon
noon.com.
Yes, we have some exciting new things. I am finishing up our coaching platform, so that's something we're going to be offering. I'm not going to say who our first coach will be. I'm going to leave that as a little nugget. Ryan, don't give it away.
I won't do that.
I don't know. The way this podcast started, there's no telling what's going to happen. But you can buy merch on there. We have tons of different resources on there. Yes. I think we have like 3 or 4 blog posts on there. We want to hear from you, so you can email us at contact@our-noon.com. Send us a message on Instagram, whatever you need, because we would love to hear from you. You can submit a blog, you can submit a story. We'd love to have it and post it on our page. Absolutely. With all of that nonsense said, who do we have today?
So today's guest, we linked up on what I like to call Sobergram now. I don't think it's Instagram. The sober people are taking over. They've spoken. Anyway, she has wrote a book. It's coming out this summer, Soul-Led Sobriety, which is going to be awesome. She also has her own podcast called Soulful and Sober. So, Chrissy, how are you? Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm doing well today, and I'm so excited to be here and to support you guys.
Well, thank you so much. And, I guess we'll just dive right in and let's talk about your relationship with alcohol, how it changed 2.5 years ago. Congratulations with that, by the way. If you could just kind of elaborate on that for us.
Yeah, so prior to 2.5 years ago, I would probably be known as a social binge drinker. And I think because I wasn't drinking every day of the week and I wasn't physically dependent on alcohol, I put myself in this bucket of, I have nothing wrong with me. Despite alcohol really did have a huge impact on me. I'd black out sometimes and I would drink too much and it made me feel really awful. And before I kind of tell you all the good things, but the challenging things for me really started in my 30s when I started drinking more frequently on the weekends. Lived on a lake. That's what everybody did. Unless you didn't do it well, right? Like if you got too drunk or something happened. And I had one particular summer that was the worst. I blacked out numerous times over the weekends. And it was just so utterly embarrassing, so much shame. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get this under control? And then I'd be like, okay, I'll do better next time. I'll moderate. Right. And this went on for a really long time. And the tricky part is sometimes I would be fine. I would drink and would have fun. And then I would tell myself, see, it's all good. And then sometimes it wouldn't be all good. And there'd be plenty of Sundays and Mondays where I'm like, God, I wish I just would stop drinking. And I kept telling myself that. And then also throughout the week when I was being quote unquote good, working out, eating healthy, feeling good, I actually preferred to feel that way over getting drunk. However, for me, it was very much socially ingrained in what I did every weekend. Everybody drank. So this went on for like a while. And I just thought, like, why would I quit drinking? Because I don't have a problem with alcohol. Despite the blackouts, despite the binge drinking, I think in my mind, I really thought someone who had a problem was worse than me. That was like, some people in my family used to have really bad alcohol problems. And I'm like, well, I'm not that bad. So this went on for, 5+ years of thinking about not drinking. And it was really once we moved to Florida in 2021 where I was getting emotional with drinking. My sleep was getting disrupted. And I really just felt like I had no control over this beverage. I just felt like I had absolutely no control. And even if I didn't black out, sometimes I would drink and I would get so freaking emotional. And I'm like, why am I getting so emotional? It's like I couldn't control it. So I got to this tipping point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is just ridiculous. So I decided on my 39th birthday, well, technically it was actually the weekend before my 39th birthday. I had to go out with a bang. I had to drink, right? So I was like, I'm going to do it after my 39th birthday. I'm going to stop drinking. And at that point, I didn't really know exactly how this was all going to happen, but I downloaded an Audible, This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. And I wrote actually, I'm, obviously in the whole soulful, I'm into manifestation and all that kind of fun stuff. I actually wrote in 2022 of January, my manifestations. One of them were to stop drinking, but I didn't put that. I put change my relationship with alcohol. I want to feel healthier. That was like my big goal in 2022. I just want to feel better. So I went on the journey of changing my relationship with alcohol. And I want to stop there, but I have a little bit more before I actually totally stop drinking.
Gotcha. Yeah. So when you stopped, did you use any type of, obviously you did Annie Grace's, did you use her platform that she does to stop, or did you use a different platform? How did you get through it?
So I drank again actually after 6 months, but and I believe me, it wasn't easy sailing 100%. I didn't know there was other kind of supports, even though Annie Grace was there. This is before I was on Instagram. Like I didn't know any of this stuff existed.
Right.
And I was the only one in my circle doing this too. So imagine everybody else is drinking.
You were literally white knuckling the whole way.
I was. The first month was great. Yeah. I was like, I felt amazing. I started doing things like, like dancing and things that normally I would probably do drinking if I was going on the weekend. And it was month 2 where it was really difficult for me because I started predicting the future of how on earth would I go on vacation in 6 months and not drink. And I literally was getting like actual anxiety around this event that wasn't even here yet. And I didn't drink really until 6 months later. I think because I really did like being alcohol free, but there was this really social part of me that still was really difficult, and I didn't have any support. Right. So I didn't really felt like I resonated with AA. So I was like, I just thought, okay, let's do this by myself. So after 6 months, there are our next door neighbors and they're huge drinkers. And they kept asking me why I wasn't drinking. And I was just like saying random things, not saying like, gee, I wanted to change my relationship with alcohol. Because I didn't want to be judged. I still had a really, chip on my shoulder about like, well, I don't want people to think I have a problem, and just a lot of stigma. Because again, I'm telling you, I look back at this and think very differently now, but like saw myself as a like different drinker. So But unfortunately, that also really that didn't help me at the end of the day either.
Mm-hmm.
But after that 6 months, I felt pressured. So I was like, I'm going to give in. I'm going to have just a little wine. So I didn't go crazy, but I have to be honest with you. The next day I was kind of disappointed, but then I convinced myself I'm going to try to moderate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to do. And I actually did a fairly decent job of it. I cut down my drinking. I didn't go back to what I was doing before, but it was almost like worse because I would stop drinking after a certain point and feel the effects of alcohol. So there was one time I was going to get on a plane and I drank maybe a couple hours before that. I drank just like really the 5 or 6 ounces of wine. Now, keep in mind the day before I did drink with my friends later in the day. Probably my sleep was, obviously messed up from it too. I got on that plane and felt so depressed. And I'm like, it is the alcohol. I am not, I don't feel this way ever. Like this depressed. I knew immediately, okay, well, that's how that felt. And then so each time I would drink, it wouldn't be as good as I remember it. It's almost like I needed, because I wasn't getting like super drunk, I was like stopping. And then I went on vacation. I went on that vacation that I was stressed out about. I had 2 drinks each day. I allowed myself to have 2 drinks. Now, I'm happy I did that, but it actually I didn't enjoy the vacation as much as I would have liked, for many different reasons. I think you change a tad. Well, you change a lot when you stop drinking. Let's be real. So it was November of 2022. And this was like a huge, huge turning point for me. I was going on date night with my then husband, and I had a really shitty day. It was so stressful, so stressful. And I'm like, okay, we're going to go drink. And at that time, thought that people wanted me to keep drinking. So I thought he wanted me to drink. And I'm not saying he did, but like, that's what I thought. I was sending pictures of my drinks to my friends because I thought everybody wanted me to drink. Mm-hmm. And clearly I was the biggest people pleaser, which was my demise as well. However, that night was awful. Number one, I didn't deal with any of my stress. There was a lack of connection between my then partner and I. And how did it come out? When I was drinking. Mm-hmm. I got so emotional. I was crying and I did not black out. So I remembered, like I said before, I remembered everything. So it was, I'm not sure if it was better or worse, to be honest with you. But anyways, I had GI upset. I had the worst stomach ache. I slept awful. And the next day I'm like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. This isn't even worth it. And so I embarked on my journey of sobriety after that day.
Wow. And what did you do as far as support goes? Because I know you said you had no support before, which kind of led to, okay, maybe I could moderate. What kind of support did you get at that point when you said, okay, enough's enough, I can't do this?
What was different?
What made it different for you that time?
A couple different things is one, I had, before I talk about the support, kind of like this like weird spiritual experience. It was so interesting. So I was really vibing, taking a walk, and I heard myself say, doors will open if you stop drinking alcohol. And that was like kind of wild because it was my own voice. And I was like, what the heck? And that's really how I started getting into intuition, because I didn't really understand that you could hear yourself, and that was intuition. And then oh gosh, it was around January of 2023 is when I started getting support. Funny enough, I saw this ad on Facebook of this woman. Her name's or I'm like blanking on it. Carolina. She does Euphoric AF. And it was about purpose and people that want to stop drinking and people that are ready to stay sober. And I kind of like listened to this, like her program, and I was like, this is interesting. And then I'm like, I want to join this. So for 4 months, I joined that program and it helped me immensely. I don't know if I would have stayed sober, to be honest with you, because the biggest issue for me, one of the biggest issues for me was the feeling like I was missing out and all the subconscious beliefs that I had around alcohol. So that was huge for me to keep repeating those things over and over again. And in combination, I started thinking more about purpose and things I never really thought about when I was drinking.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, you say like intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I deal with this a lot, even with my mental health. People ask a question like, do you have an internal monologue, right? And you would think everybody would say, yeah, like I hear talking stories, narration, whatever, all the time. Not everyone does. But for the people who do, is it your voice or is it somebody else's voice? And there's like a big thing with that, since you're obviously, and I'm sure you'll talk about how you get into the depths of that, but there's a whole psychology and like intuition part of that too. So in my head, it depends, sometimes you hear your own voice, sometimes it feels like a third party voice you don't recognize, but having that moment, that's a sense of clarity, right? Where it's a connection with yourself, and it's not until that mindset shifts that the sobriety, the recovery, the clarity can actually begin. From there, so I know you say you found a support system and you started working a program, is what we'll call it. What really got you into the spiritual, intuitive part of it as well? Because regardless of who I speak with, even if they do not identify as a spiritual or religious person, everyone has some sort of, spirit. I hate to be redundant, but spiritual is the only word. I don't really mean it that way, but for all intents and purposes, some sort of spiritual or awakening moment or sense that they have. And it doesn't have to be something tangible. And I find, that seems to be the foundation upon what everyone builds their recovery on. For some people, it is religion. For some people, it is spirituality. For others, it's something else. But for you, what did that look like?
So for me, it was more my intuition spirituality. I feel like it's in different facets. So prior to even getting sober, I started getting into manifestation and visualization and learning about that. But what really stuck with me is that all those times I thought about not drinking and thought about how good I felt, our body is like our biggest indicator. So for me, I had my intuition was telling me to stop drinking years ago. I just didn't understand it and didn't have that level where I could get like, oh yeah, I can stop this thing if I really want to. For me though, it was that one time where I was like, holy crap, like that is like, I had to like look it up because I didn't even know about like, clear audience. So where you can hear yourself or hear somebody else talk. For me, it's usually myself. I don't hear like random other people's voices. But for me, it was really that moment. And then where I am now. So for that moment, when I heard myself say doors will open if you stop drinking alcohol, I'm like, well, shit, I want to see what those doors are.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, let's go. But sometimes I would think back to that because it was so profound. And there's been a couple times in my journey that has just been like really cool. And so I feel like, I don't know, maybe in the sober space, I feel like we're here for a reason, right? Like, regardless if people believe in a higher power or believe in whatever they believe in, I believe we're sometimes led here. And when I talk to people about getting sober, yes, there's pain. Obviously, we want to get sober for a specific reason. We don't like how we feel, and other components are families, and there's lots of moving parts to drinking and getting sober. But I tell people that one is we have life lessons. We have life lessons we're supposed to learn. We have free will. So if we can learn those lessons when we get sober, that's what we're supposed to learn. And we're also led here for a specific reason too. And that's really a lot of my journey is I get to help people now. I get to teach people a different way. And I tell people, instead of thinking you're such an awful person, you had to do this in order to get better. You had to have this shitty thing happen to you to get to that place of healing and getting to know yourself in a different capacity. And I just tell people without that rock bottom, or even if you didn't have a rock bottom, without that pain, you couldn't have your transformation. You couldn't impact more people. What you guys are doing, what other people in the sober spaces are doing, they were like, I just believe they're led here, and we have a choice to listen or not listen. So I hope I answered your question, but like,
yes.
yeah. So I just feel like the more I do this, the more it's like a heart-centered thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like led here to do this. So, and everything that I went through in my sober journey of healing and just the things that I really was never addressing, I can help other people address too. And I think spirituality is beautiful because really it's just connecting to ourselves at the end of the day and in potentially something higher, but it doesn't have to be complicated. I think it's if there's a God or the universe, like they want us to be happy, and drinking all the time and numbing out and looking to alcohol for excitement isn't living your best life. Really, it's not.
Mm-hmm. No, you definitely answered my question because I agree with that. I mean, it doesn't have to have an explanation behind it, but we do all have an intuitive nature. And when you remove the things that are clouding that, and for this purpose, it's alcohol, right? It could be drugs, it could be sex, it could be people, it could be situations. I mean, it can be an infinite number of things that are substance or not. Until you remove those things, it's impossible for you to really see it and understand it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you are essentially creating a life to escape from rather than creating a life that you want to be fully present for. And that's true. I hear people say this a lot, everybody. I don't know. I don't know how I got here. I was so low, I was here. And it doesn't have to be a rock bottom, it could be anything. But once I just started making one step at a time, one improvement at a time, doors started opening. Like just good things started happening. And I'm not talking about like, oh my gosh, like I quit drinking for a week and I won the lottery. But like, I mean, like I quit drinking and became more intentional with my energy and my space. And I found like-minded people and community. And I listened to this person. I mean, those who are in recovery or enlightenment or anything of the such, they are not gatekeeping that information. And that's how you really know people are genuine. The true I guess show of any sort of evolution of self is wanting to give that away, wanting to share that, wanting to help. I can't even remember where I heard it, but it was like in times of tragedy, look for the healers, look for the people who are trying to help and assist. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. I can't explain it. It's not big things. It's just one of those things that little micro, changes and improvements. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I like all of a sudden have this job opportunity, or all of a sudden, like, I reconnected with my family, and it really is awesome. And you don't realize it until like in retrospect almost. And it's because you are connecting with yourself intuitively and following, we call it your gut instinct, but you're following that. And you're right, your body will tell you. I mean, that's basic even science, right? Like, oh, my head hurts. Okay, well, did you drink water today?
Yeah.
Did you sleep? Are you stressed? I mean, and that's not always it, but 95% of the time it is. So yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense to me. A lot of people don't know where to start, and they're just like, oh my gosh, that's never going to happen. It starts with one thing.
That's right.
Like,
and build on it.
You don't even have to quit drinking today if you're not ready to make that commitment. Like, just just get up and make your bed or brush your hair. Like, if you're like, I hate brushing my hair in the morning, something very small leads to those big changes. So yeah, I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah. And I always think of that in that picture of two women, the same women, but they have different ladders. One is trying to climb like this ladder that are like really big steps that she has to like make them so big, and it's just so hard to get there. And the other, the same person is climbing up little steps, and she's getting there faster because it's the little things we forget. And I think in a sober journey, it's the little things. And it's also, to me, I really do think getting support and doing something different. Like like, if I didn't do anything different, I'm sure, I mean, I don't know with 100% certainty, but my guess is I would have drank again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think we all would have if, things didn't, it's not like we pull a full 180 on our lives. I mean, we just, we've changed one thing to really gain everything, right? I mean, that's what we say anyway. But obviously, community plays a huge part in whatever recovery that you have. What have you noticed changing in the community since you kind of, even from starting to moderate? What have you noticed, like big changes in community, and what has community meant to you in your sobriety?
So I think that, to me, I actually even write this a little bit in my book too, that getting support and mentorship is, I feel like it's essential, but it's also really nice to know you're not alone, right? Like, there's other people that are like struggling
Right.
or going through the same thing as you. Maybe it's different, but there's so many people. I was actually pretty lonely and depressed when I started out because I didn't, not that people weren't supportive, but I'm going to tell you right now, and you guys will get this, trying to get validation from someone who's drinking is a really bad idea.
Yeah.
It's really bad. Because they're not going to be in the same journey. It's not like they're wrong or right for their feedback, but it might not be the feedback you actually need that's constructive. So that's helpful too, to be like, hey, I want to do this big thing. And the other thing that's really good about community is when you surround yourself with people that are like-minded, trying to build themselves up, trying to kind of go after things in their lives, that's when you get those things that happen. The doors open, it's magnetic. I mean, you think about people you hang out around with that are like soul sucking, and how exhausted and drained you feel versus people that are so excited and vibrant, even if they're struggling. But if you have that one person that leads the group, that can give you a different way to think about things. And I think that's huge, is even if you quote unquote screw up, you have somebody to be like, hey, cool, what did we learn? Let's talk about it. Let's not make this event be the end of the world. And I think that's huge for support. And like, just like our brains, we need repetition to change the circuitry, right? And so when you do something new like that, it's really helpful to have it be repetitive, like I mentioned before. So it took me probably a full year to really rewire my brain. I didn't drink during that time, and I was working with people, but like, it was all these things I kept doing. And so now I think if I drink again, I will ruin my life and I won't get anything I want in my life. And so it's not a question if I should drink again. I'm not going to. It's like, and I know some people are like, well, I just want to not say never, and that's fine. But like, I really have changed my brain that if I drink again, I won't get the things I want. And that's cool, from being this social wine drinker, like red wine drinker, where I would talk about red wine all the time. I would know about red wine, and here we are.
And it seems such a silly thing too. Like, and it's not to knock on anybody who is like a sommelier or anything, but when you look back on it, you think like, why the fuck do I need to have all this knowledge about like it makes me want to be like, so this is a Coca-Cola from the other regions of, whatever world. And I say that because it is, right? It becomes your entire personality. And this, I don't want to go too much into this because I could talk about this for days, but then it gets you on this subject of, socioeconomics, where what is the difference between sitting at a 5-star restaurant getting drunk on expensive wine and like bellied up at a seedy bar drinking PBR? Nothing.
It does the same exact fucking thing. One has a bigger bill than the other.
And I say, because then you go to like the way that society portrays it and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And that's a whole other like mirage that contributes to that. We've talked about this on previous podcasts, like mommy wine culture.
Oh yeah.
Things like that. I keep saying things like that a lot. I apologize. See, I knew eventually I was going to fuck this shit up. I am a real estate agent, and I used to give bottles of champagne or wine as closing gifts. And again, not knocking anybody who does it, but I stopped doing that once this, really before even I quit drinking when you did, because I thought, is that really an appropriate gift? It makes you stop and just kind of rethink the energy and the intentions you're putting out there. And I believe that anything that challenges you to open your mind and be more intentional with your words and your actions, I mean, it's always good, right? I mean, that's always good to go, maybe I need to rethink the way that I'm doing that and the message that I'm sending with that. But yeah, when you talk about like drinking red wine, that's what I think, because that used to be me. I'd been like, "Ugh, I like all the dry red wine." It's like that's like
Very dry.
like that, like I was doing something there. I'd be like, "Oh, you drink Riesling?" Like somehow, if I had like $100 bottle of wine, then that was like, I'm like, it's better quality, and he would always be like, "Tastes like boxed wine to me," And it is
organic wine. Ooh.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so ridiculous.
It's
so silly. Like our favorite thing used to be to go like the Biltmore. So what was it the other day? You told me, you said, I think we should take the kids to the Biltmore. And I said, why? He said, well, because we enjoy it. Like we can walk around like the estate and stuff. I'm like, gosh, we walked around that damn house so many times. Like the history's not changing, And I looked at him and I said, we can go if you want to. But I mean, when I think of the Biltmore, I think we just used to go and eat cheese and get drunk on wine with everybody else at the bar. Like, what are we going to do there? And it is because you're right. You are who you hang with. And I know that the origin of that phrase is not so great, but it is true. And it's not about, socioeconomics. It's not about money or anything like that. It is simply about people who are in tune with themselves and listen and learn and are on a journey and have healthy boundaries and are open to, the information around them. And you really hit the nail on the head with that, because I sound so old here. I'm like, I see kids these days, and you don't realize how much of an influence and impression just everything has on you that you're consuming daily. Like, I love true crime, right? Like, I enjoy it, but I don't watch it as much anymore. And it's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just like, when you are consuming so much negativity, it lowers your entire frequency. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to enjoy your true crime or watch a horror movie or gossip with your girlfriends. It's just like when that is all consuming, it really does affect your mood and everything. And that's just like the media you're consuming, let alone.
It takes up your whole day.
It can.
I used to totally watch true crimes before I would go to bed. I don't watch that now. Although, once in a while, but yeah. And I'm like, I would always think to myself, oh my gosh, what am I doing to my subconscious before I go to bed? Holy shit.
And then I'll wake up like, man, I had
dreams and everything.
I know. Like I woke up the other day and I was like, I had a dream that Michael Myers was like chasing me around. And he killed a bunch of people, but he didn't catch me, like.
Where did she come from?
I know, but like I don't watch as much anymore, and you indulge, and that's another thing too. When you talk about moderation, obviously, like Ryan and I both have said, we're never going to drink again, and laying that boundary out there, because you're right, repetition and habits are what form behaviors. And just something funny that popped into my head. I don't know if you watch The Office, but I know that like a billion people out there do. But it makes me think of the scene with Jim and Dwight, and Jim like plays this prank on him where every day he like hits a button on his computer that makes a noise and then hands Dwight a mint. Like it's just like automatic. And he does it every single day for like weeks. And then one day he hits the button on his computer and it makes a noise, and Dwight just like goes like this without thinking. And he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. But like my mouth tastes really bad all of a sudden, But it's true, because that's how you change those behaviors, is by doing the same things every single day until they're just automatic. Yeah. And they're just ingrained in you. And that's always a good feeling too, when you wake up and you're like, I didn't even have to think about doing that today.
You just did it.
Yeah.
I just heard the button and reached out my hand. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I also think, when you remove something that you've been doing for gosh, a lot of us 20 plus years, I always tell people it's not going to happen overnight. And you're still going to think about alcohol. That's normal. But the other thing too, well, it's really personal to me, but a lot of people that I work with too, the emotional roller coaster, the trauma, the feelings of inadequacy, there's just so many things that get brought up that were always there. Just really, they were. They didn't just like pop up the moment you stopped drinking. It's just we didn't know they were going on. So I just think alcohol blocks so much. Mm-hmm. And so I do think it's so much easier in that moment to go back to what you're familiar with, which is drinking and fitting in and doing what is easy. I think it's the hard stuff is the staying sober and working on yourself that is the hard stuff, but it's going to be the best stuff, the long lasting stuff, the life changing stuff long term.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, when you were talking about that, like, and it's not just even like an addiction to the actual alcohol. It is like holding the wine glass or the martini glass or like it is you are addicted to the habit of it. You know, like people who quit smoking, it's like an oral fixation, you know? Even to this day, like if we go somewhere and I just get like a sparkling, you know, water with lime and I like carry it around, I'm like, ooh, look at me, you know, in my little crystal glass. And it's just water, but still like just having that. Yep. And I know for some people that's triggering all in itself. So it's a subjective thing. But yeah, like sometimes I have found, especially for me, like just ordering a drink or having a drink and just holding the glass and just having it as as a formality. Sometimes getting like separating from that is harder than the actual substance itself. Yeah. Because the drinking is the symptom of the problem, right? That's why all that stuff comes up. Yeah. It's not the alcohol itself that is the issue. You're using that as a coping mechanism. It's a symptom of the problem. So when you eliminate that, now you got to like deal with the festering infection and it hurts, you know?
But no, I agree with you about the glass thing. When I would go out in the beginning, I mean, even now I'll obviously drink something, but it's a little bit different now. But in the beginning, I had to have something like all the time. I peed a lot.
Yeah. That's me. I drink a gallon of water a day, so I am constantly in the bathroom, which is crazy. But if I am not moving around or doing something, if I'm just sitting like I am right now, I've got to keep something in my hand because for 30 years, that's what I did when I sat down to watch a movie, something on, sports on TV, whatever it was, I would have a drink. So now I've just replaced it with water or an NA beer or something like that. I mean, it's funny. I still do the same shit. Just I don't black out anymore.
Well, because you are still you. That's another thing about it too. Is it not like you just transform into this? I know we're like, oh my God, you're a completely different person. No, I mean, no, you're getting, but you're not. Yeah. You're actually just getting back to your most raw form. Like when I hear about like going out and holding the glasses, it's fun because I feel like a little like 6-year-old Jessica like playing dress up. You know what I mean? Like I have on heels that are too big and like a princess dress, and I play dress up, and so you find the fun in it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna walk around with my like fancy mocktail and be like, oh my gosh, I think I feel lightheaded. But that's it because that's part of it too. We can get so down on ourselves and start thinking about all of the really shitty things we did when we're drinking to ourselves, to the people around us. And that can be a spiral as well. Like on this podcast, that's why we keep the humor going. I won't edit out the beginning of the podcast. We'll let it be beautifully like a beautiful train wreck because that's where the richness in life is. You have to be able to laugh and enjoy that. You have to be able to look back and be like, who the fuck did I think I was with my wine glass? Because otherwise you're going to end up drinking again. Yeah. Like there is humility in all of it. We're all just a bunch of kids trying to play dress up. Like what are we doing here? But that's fun. I mean, who doesn't love that? Yeah.
Well, Chrissy, let's talk about your book that's coming out soon. Give us the info on all that coming out.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. I give so much props to authors. It's a lot of work, but it's so exciting. So in 2023, I was meditating, and this does not happen to me all the time. It's just random things. I saw myself signing books and going on stage. And here we are. And I do believe this is going to happen. But I wrote some kids' books. And then I'm like, I really want to write a nonfiction book. And before I actually decided to do all this, I did write in my little intuition journal, Soul-Led Sobriety. And at that time, I was like, I want to do quotes because I do my own quotes sometimes. And then I'm like, and then I want to have like a little story. Well, it kind of transformed into a little bit of a different book. Mm-hmm. So I go through really what helped me, but what I think, a lot of people might need. So I do talk about the alcohol blocks and the void. So what are we avoiding when we're drinking? What's alcohol blocking? And I always tell my story to say that I thought it should be worse because I think a lot of people think that too. So I want people to understand no matter where you are on the spectrum, it's a spectrum, mm-hmm. right? Like It is. And you can be drinking every weekend and your life can be really not as good as you would like it to be. And so I really wanted to point that out. I talk about why it's hard to break up with alcohol. Obviously there's a true addiction to drinking. I mean, that can't be denied. So that's in there. But like what we talked about today, like really the socialization, the glamorization of alcohol. I just really feel like that kids are brought up to think that's what you do. No one tells them that you don't have to do this thing. And so, I just think it's so important to talk about those topics too. And then I talk about the spiritual aspect of things like spirituality. And again, that can be whatever people believe in spirituality. I don't necessarily talk about one thing in particular, but I really feel like stepping into sobriety is spiritual, right? You get to know yourself on a different level. You connect with yourself differently. I talk about intuition. I talk about different types of intuition. And some of it is related to sobriety. It's all based on my story and things that I witnessed, but there are tangible tips and tools for people to use wherever they are in their journey. Mm-hmm. I talk about purpose and grace. So I talk about purpose is the fact that I really feel like you find your purpose by your transformation, like we talked about before. I don't think you go look under a rock and go, is it there? Yeah. And I think purpose is different for so many people. It can be raising your children. It can be doing a podcast. It doesn't have to be writing books and being a #1 bestseller per se. That doesn't necessarily make it purposeful, right? Like it's what you feel good in your heart. And grace, I talk about, is really, I mean, guess what it sounds like is giving yourself love and grace through this process, that it's not even the act of removing alcohol. It's the staying sober part that is fundamentally very difficult. I also talk a lot about healing and trauma and the nervous system, mm-hmm. because man, I don't know about y'all, but when I stopped drinking and I had a lot of things thrown at me, my nervous system was really just a wreck. So I want people to understand that it is not easy to stay sober. It's absolutely doable, but I think that there's a lot that goes into it. So when we talk about support and we talk about getting mentorship, there is a reason why I'm a very big advocate for it. One, I did it, but two, if you don't change anything and your nervous system is unsafe, you're not drinking, but you're not working on the root of your issues, most people will go back to drinking or will be absolutely miserable.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with that. And just to piggyback off that quickly, you're talking about, resources, community, like we've talked about all of these things. And I think where people get really stuck to is the people who are closest to you, your friends, your family, like the people who are seriously close. Unfortunately, they cannot be the people holding you accountable. Mm-hmm. They cannot be the people who are walking a program with you. And that's really hard too, because even if they are on a sober journey, with your nervous system trying to re-regulate, you feel everything amplified by 10. You get very overstimulated. You feel big emotions. I mean, it really is like coming out of a coma, or, you know, being temporarily blind, and all of a sudden, or whenever you think like you walk to the bathroom in the middle of the night and you flip that light on, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, it is that same very like jolting. And so I think reading books, finding communities, having conversations like this is so important. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, but no one is supposed to be everything to you. These resources, these communities, these conversations, these varying relationships are so important to your mental health and your recovery, and they all serve such an important purpose, even if it's only one encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been the biggest thing I've taken away from my journey is, you know, I can have very polarizing views on certain things, not within recovery, but just like in the world politics and whatnot. And I still have those polarizing views, but where it would branch over into something problematic is I would be very close-minded in listening and being willing to accept that I had something to learn from every single person I came in contact with. So, and that goes to the intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you envision yourself, or you hear yourself saying these things, you meet somebody, you have a conversation, and that is where you find what is driving you within that recovery too. So, understanding that the people who are closest to you, they can't be your everything. And I find people getting very, very closed off in that as well. These communities, these conversations are so important, and understanding every circumstance that you are in, even the ones that you're like, what in the world am I going to learn from this? It teaches you everything, and it like most certainly drives your purpose and your reasoning for staying sober. I always tell people, you know, I know we do this podcast together and everybody sees like Jess and Ryan, Jess and Ryan, Jess and Ryan, but we are two individual people, and there are, I can't hold him accountable. He can't hold me accountable. That's a solo journey. And that's why you have these varying things that you're working on, whether it be like you're writing a book, or you're part of Reframe, or you're doing retreats or whatever. And I think that's also something really important for people to hear, is that it is on you to navigate these circles and being open to what these situations are going to bring into you, and not limiting yourself to thinking that the people closest around you are going to dictate what path you take. I hope that made sense. I wasn't really articulating it well, but just being open and knowing that you have something to learn from every single person, and holding yourself accountable, and also just understanding that all of these relationships are important, and being able to put that positive energy into them is what really propels you forward. I was like, I know that was a little long-winded, but I
No,
hope that you guys
It's supposed
followed
to be
that.
short, but it was, you know, hey, hang on here.
Well, I was trying to make my point, because I was like, it talks about what because you're talking about finding your purpose, but
Right.
like it really is a lot deeper than that. And then that kind of sparks me saying, you know, a lot of people, like when they're married or whatever, they're like, well, because you said like I didn't have community. Like I hear other people, I don't have any support. Like nobody's trying to help me. And though that sounds like very understandable, it's like once you break free of that and you understand that you are in the driver's seat and you navigate these things, that is actually empowering, and it opens you up to so
Big
many
time,
different relationships and
Yep.
communities and
Friendships,
things.
community, yeah.
And
Yep.
that is where you find that purpose.
Yep.
And that's 100% on the dot, because when you look at like manifestation, and you look at like, you know, even if you don't believe in manifestation, if you look at like being open-minded, and when you're open-minded to like, I'm open to what's possible, you will have those synchronicities. You will have things come in your life if you're open to things, right? If it feels good and it makes sense. I have to say, like, my at the time husband did not stop drinking. So if I didn't find support and community, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Right.
The other thing I also noticed too, and not everybody's unhappy, obviously, in their marriages, but some people, their partner doesn't do what they're doing, and they're allowed to have their own space and navigate this as well. And I think that's important. So I think what you're saying really is just like, being open-minded and the beauty of community and support. And that can look differently for everybody, but whatever feels good, that there's a different flavor when you have somebody else's perspective. And again, like I said, you're in rooms with people that get you, and that's so important.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's important. I mean, even just like the acquaintances you run in like on a daily basis, like I really underestimated the value of just every single relationship I have with every person, even if it's just like someone I see like once a year. And once you open your mind to that, it really is like you have so much to learn from the people and the situations you interact with. And when you realize that, I think that really is what leads to kind of come full circle. Like you're taking like up the ladder, you're taking those small steps and you're opening yourself up to things. And when you do that, because I really truly believe that to the core of all people, with the exception of like 0.0001%, that people are rooted in love and do and act in ways in which they really do think are good and right. So when you accept that about people, regardless of what they're bringing to you, and you open yourself up to that, I really do think that like attracts like. I mean, and there is no believing or not believing manifestation. It's real. It's just not the TikTok version of sitting down and writing it down and putting it under your pillow and happening. There's action.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like that.
Right. There's action you take and I mean, when you put positivity and understanding out into the world, I really do believe that you come back. Welcome it back into.
100%. They're universal laws. It's a thing, whether you believe it or not. I mean, I think it comes back, and you can believe what you want, but I agree with you.
100%.
All right. Well, before we get you out of here, we ask all our guests a good question that you have to go back to your drinking days to answer. And you got to give us just a good, funny ass drinking story. And if it involves yourself or someone else peeing, we've got to hear it.
Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones.
Can we hear that from everybody?
Oh, I have a good one. So this was, can it involve like other people? Like
absolutely, 100%.
Making sure, because I wasn't like, I mean, I was drinking, but I wasn't like the butt of the joke, I guess you could say.
That's fine.
Okay, so we went to this. It was my girlfriend's husband's 30th birthday. This was a really long time ago, but anyways, we went to this like banquet and we were celebrating. We were all drinking, and there was these people dressed in furry costumes. And I didn't know what that meant. So like, this is a thing. People get turned on by wearing animal costumes, which is like the most bizarre thing. So we're all drinking and we're like dying, and like people are going up to them. And this isn't like a really terrible story, but it was more like, this is like, aren't they hot? Like, like what? And I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
Yeah.
Listen,
so I'm going to leave it as that disturbing thought.
Disturbing visual.
There's a kink out there for everything.
There is.
That's all I'm going to say. If you can think of it, there's a kink out there. But I'm like,
so do they have to take their outfits? I was really perplexed by this, and I will stop at that.
Yeah.
I know about this stuff.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chrissy, also go ahead and plug your podcast as well, please.
Yeah, my podcast is Soulful and Sober, and I have to have you guys on it. That would be so much fun.
We would love to.
We'd love to.
Yeah. But yeah, I talk about, obviously all things alcohol free. I talk about intuition. I have guests that usually mirror those types of things that I'm into, and obviously I feel a connection with them.
That's awesome. And when does your book come out?
So I don't know the exact date because we're still in the phases, but it's going to be out in the summer, and I'm super excited. People can get on the wait list for it, but I'm like, every time I write it and like edit it, I'm like, this is actually pretty good. Like, really?
I love it.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and we will plug the hell out of it when it comes out.
Yeah, we will.
Aw,
Do you have
thank
like
you.
where can they be waitlisted?
So I have a website I can share with you guys too.
Okay.
It's just my name. It's www.chrissyjaniga.com. Funny though, I was like, I don't know if I want to do a sober account or like have like a sober handle or have a sober website, because I'm like, I want to write books and I don't know if you're supposed to do that. So funny, now I'm writing books.
There you
Nice.
go. I love it.
Love it.
Author Chrissy Janiga, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Chrissy.
joining
This
us
has been
today.
great.
We really appreciate it.
Oh,
Thanks so
thank
much.
you for having me. It was so fun to be here.
All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Chrissy.
Bye.
Bye.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe.
And hit that notification bell to get
Boom.
notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.